Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Alright, great. So let's make a start. Um, so the last class, we were looking at the revision of the functions, and the last thing we looked at was the VLOOKUP function. And so today we're going to be starting with relative and absolute addressing. What are those two terms? So I'm going to demonstrate what they are first, and then we're going to go through the information. Now, they're relatively simple concepts. Whenever we create a formula, say for instance we have a table. So this is column A, this is column B, and we have information inside of the table, like this here. And say we want to calculate the total for each one of these rows that we have here. So we create a simple formula to calculate that total. We say A2 equal A2 plus B2. So we have a simple formula to calculate these two cells here, to add them together. Now when we complete that, we have our answer there. Now we could go to the next cell and type in equal A3 plus A4, sorry, B3, and we could keep doing that over and over. Go to the next row and keep typing in the rest of the rows information, but that is going to be wasting time, because we have a method to easily create the formula in this column here, and that is going to be our autofill method, or basically our copying method. So the little square at the end of the active cell, when you click and drag, that automatically copies our formula. Now we should already know this, but the main thing that we're looking at is relative addressing. That's what we're looking at right now. What is relative addressing? Now, what makes that when I copy this formula here, that it creates it correctly for each one of these rows here? Why does it create automatically correctly for each row? Well, that is because of relative addressing. So I created this formula here as equal A1 plus B2, A2 plus B2. Now, what relative addressing does is that when you copy this cell here with the information, when a cell name is copied, it changes based on the position that it is pasted. It changes based on the position that it was moved, basically. So, because I am moving the formula down one row, the row is changed. So let me delete this here. So look at equal A2 B2. When I autofill and go down, I am increasing the row by 1 because I'm going to the next row. So I'm going from row 2 to row 3. So what is actually happening? I am increasing the row by 1 because I'm moving by 1 row. Now, it's not because it's numbered a row 2, row 3, and so on, because this here could actually have been A3 plus B3, and when I copy down, it's going to change by 1 because I copied it to the next row. I only moved it by 1 row. So it changed by 1 row. So how much ever time I move it, that is how much time it will change. And this is called relative addressing. It changes based on the position relative to where it is being pasted. So that's why the cells there change, because basically we want it to change. Now this is not something like you need to understand the science behind of it. It's not something that you need to worry about how to create. It's just something that happens automatically. But you just have to understand why it happens. The system is built that way because the main purpose of spreadsheet is to calculate. And we calculate using formulas. So when we are working with formulas, usually we have a table of information and we have to create multiple formulas. So the feature of relative addressing allows us to automatically change cell names as we copy it. Now, so that there is clear that it changes based on our position. Now, I'm going to create another one, and I want you to note what is going to happen. So I'm going to go to cell H5. I'm going to type in equal E3 plus F3. So equal E3 plus F3. Now what I want you to look at the where my formula is, and look at where the two cells that I'm calculating, where they're located. So my formula is in H5. So just count 1 column to the left, 2 column to the left, 3 column. So that's 2 and 3 columns to the left, and 2 columns above relative to this formula's position. 2 and 3 columns to the left, 2 rows above. That's the position there. Now look what happens when I copy this formula here and I go somewhere totally different. Notice I'm at row 59 right now, and I'm pasting in column D. Look what happens. I paste here, the cell gets pasted there. Let me copy it again. It wasn't copied correctly. I need to select it. I need to highlight it, then copy it, not go into the cell. So I'm going to go to another cell here, cell D71, and I'm going to paste here. I notice that it's now A69 B plus B69, and notice the position here. So notice it's the same 2 and 3 columns to the left, and it's the same 2 rows above. So that is what relative addressing does. Wherever you copy a formula, I'm going to take the same formula again, scroll down, even scroll across, the position is going to remain the same 2 and 3 columns to the left, the same 2 rows above, but the cell names are going to change based on that position relative to wherever you copied and pasted. You guys think you're following?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Great. So that there.
Sir.
Yes.
We just explain it again, like how you're copying it from one place but to another. It's very confusing.
Alright, so you understand this one here?
Yeah, the autofill part. Yeah.
Good. So you understand that when you autofill, it changes based on the row, right? So it's the same concept that when we created this formula here, it used the 2 cells on the left. It used one column and the second column to the left. So the same thing happened when we copied it downwards, when we autofilled it. It's still using the 2 columns to the left. Still using the 2 columns, still using the 2 columns, still using the 2 columns. So if I copy this now, remember autofill is still copy, and I move anywhere and I paste it, it's still using the 2 columns on the left. So wherever I paste that formula, it's going to use the cells relative to that position of wherever I'm creating that formula. So the first time when I created the formula, it was using 2 cells on the left. So when I copy it and paste it anywhere, it is going to use the 2 cells on the left. Same with when I was creating this one here. This one here was using 2 and 3 columns to the left, 2 rows above. So 2 and 3 columns to the left to this formula, 2 rows above. So when I paste it anywhere else, I go anywhere in the spreadsheet and I paste it, it's going to use 2 and 3 columns on the left, 2 rows above. It's going to use the same position all the time, unless you change it. Did that help?
Okay, thanks, sir. Yeah, I understand.
Alright, great. So the key thing to remember is that whenever you copy a formula, it changes based on where you copy it. That's the key thing to remember. Now, the other one is going to be absolute addressing. There's some situation where you do not want the cell to change. Like in this case here with this table, we want it to change because we want it to automatically calculate our table based on each row that it gets copied to. We want it to calculate our table. But there are certain situations where we do not want it to change. We do not want the cell to change. What is an example of that? An example of that is going to be, say for instance, we have we need to calculate VAT. So say for instance we need to calculate VAT on an item, and we know that VAT does not change. It is a fixed value, a fixed value of 14%, or how much ever percent it might be, but Ghana it's usually 14% fixed value. So if we want to calculate 40% of this total, it's going to be like this here, equal the cell here multiplied by the cell that has E1 inside of it. A simple formula, C2 multiplied by E1. So that's calculating these two here, and that gives me my VAT there. That's 14% there. Now, what is going to happen if I autofill? Notice the formula did not work. Why it did not work? Because my E1 changed because of relative addressing. So notice we went E2, E3, E4, E5 because I kept autofilling and changing, and that cell changed automatically by itself. So this situation here, I do not want the cell to change. I want the cell to remain the same. So we have two methods of absolute addressing. We have one, the $ method. How do we create the $ method? The $ method is basically, remember, a cell name is made up of a column letter and a row number. Column letter and row number. So you place a $ before the column letter, and you place a $ before the row number. So the column letter is E, I have a $ before that, and the row number is 1, I have a $ before that. We complete the entry, and now we autofill. Let me turn on formula view, and now we autofill this here, and notice E1 remained as E1. So this here is absolute addressing. The cell did not change. So notice C2 changed to C3, then C4, C5, and so on. So that there is relative addressing, but on the right hand side, E1 did not change. That is called absolute addressing. It remained the same. Are we clear on that?
Yes, sir.
Good.
Yes, sir.
So whatever you put the $ on, doesn't matter what cell. For instance, I'm gonna put equal RZ 34 equal RZ 34, and remember, if I autofill or copy, it's gonna change based on how much I move. So it went from R4, 34, 35, 36, 37. But if I place a $sign in front of the column letter and a $sign in front of the row number, and I autofill this here now, notice it remained as RZ34. So that's one method. That's called absolute addressing, to keep the cell as it is. And you usually do that when you have a value in that one cell that you want to carry out some form of calculation on. Now, there's another method, and that is to name the cell / range. You name the cell or the range, whatever you're going to use, but it's more so naming the cell, because you won't really you would name a range also. There are certain situations that might require that. So you would either name the cell or the range that you want, and that can be used as absolute addressing. So let me insert another column there. So this is going to be VAT2. So what you need to do is name your range or name your cell. So we already know how to do this. I'm going to name cell F1, which has my 14% inside of it. I'm going to go to my name box, and I'm going to type in the name VAT, and I'm going to press enter. So cell F1 has the name of VAT. You guys remember how to name a cell, right? Did we look at that?
Yes, sir.
Great. You guys remember how to delete the name of a cell after you would have named it?
No.
Alright, so if you want to, say for instance, I no longer want this cell here to be named as VAT, I can go to the data tab, the formulas tab. Go to the formulas tab, and you're going to see name manager. Select that, and you're going to see all of the names that you would have created inside of this spreadsheet here. So notice I have a name cell or range called functions, grade, stock, and notice my VAT here, 14% here. So if I want to delete this name, I need to select delete. Are you sure you want to delete the name VAT? Okay, and I just deleted that name. So if you notice here, it's back to F1. You can also edit it. So say for instance you made a mistake, you can also edit it if you want. So that's how you delete it. So I'm not going to rename it as VAT. So I name cell F1 as VAT. Now what I'm going to do next is create the same formula, equal C2 asterisk, and now I'm going to type in the name of the cell that I just created, VAT. And if you notice, when I type in VAT, that 14% is highlighted because that is now the name of that cell. Enter, and notice I have the same result. So when I autofill now, copy, I'm also getting the same result. So let me show you the formula now. So notice the formula, it has VAT throughout the formula, even though I copied, even though I autofilled. So once again, relative addressing is when the cell name is going to change relative to the position that you would have copied the formula. If you move down 2 row, it's going to be changed by 2 row. For instance, C2 changed to C4, that is 2 row. Absolute addressing is when you do not want the cell to change. You have 2 methods. You have the $sign method, and you have the name range method. Are we clear on that?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Any questions?
No, sir.
All right. let me run through the paragraph and see if we're missing anything. Consider this purchase calculated. So discount is also another example of using absolute addressing, because we know we usually have one fixed value of discount for multiple items. So in spreadsheet, when you have a fixed value for multiple items, you do not type in that value multiple times in a row. Like for instance, you want to type it in 40% throughout this row here like this, and then do calculations. That won't be effective. You would have it inside of one cell like this here, and reference this one cell, call upon this one cell here. Same for discount. Discount has cases whereby only 1% is going to be for a lot of items. Alright, so I don't think we missed anything there. Alright, we didn't miss anything there either. Now, one thing to note, that whenever you're naming a cell or you're naming a range, the most effective thing to do is to give it a name that actually represents what data is inside of it. So like in this case, it's storing VAT, so we named it VAT. If it's storing discount, we name it discount. Now if there's like a situation whereby we have multiple VAT, we have multiple discount, then you can use variations of the same words. You're allowed to use number, so you can say discount 1, discount 2, discount 3, and that way you're keeping the name discount, but you can have the variation in that one word instead of having to create like other similar words, like maybe disc as a shortened form. You can keep that one word and add that number variation to it. Alright, so if no questions on relative and absolute addressing, we're going to be moving on to manipulating rows and columns. We're basically going to be looking at how to insert and delete rows and columns. So we're not going to go through this here. I'm just going to give you a demonstration of each and tell you what you need to remember. So in our spreadsheet, we know that our spreadsheet is made up of columns and it is made up of rows. Now, like how we've already created this table here, and say for instance we wanted a column between this column B here and this total here. We do not need to start over the spreadsheet. We can actually insert a column in between here, or even if we want a row, we can also insert a row between row 3 and row 4. Now when we do insert a column or insert a row, you need to understand how the information moves. How does the table or the spreadsheet reorganizes itself? So look what happens to the information. Now if I want to insert a column before column C, I need to select column C. So once again, if I want to insert a column before column C, I need to select column C. If I want to insert a column before column D, I have to select that one. If I want to select insert a column before G, I have to select that one. Whichever one you want to insert before, you select that column. So I want to insert before this total column here, column C. I select that there. You don't necessarily need to select. All you need to do is right click on the column letter. As you do that now, you're going to see an insert option and you select that. So notice I inserted a blank column here and it inserted a new column C. But the important part is what happened to the old information in that column. Notice everything shifted one column to the right. So that's the key point there. You need to remember that whenever you insert a column, wherever you insert it, all the information from that column and to the right gets shifted by how much ever column you created. So if I created one column, it gets shifted by one column. If I go and insert another column, notice it got shifted again. So the important point here is that when you insert a column, the information gets shifted to the right. So the entire column is moved to the right, as I just mentioned there. Are we clear on that?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now, what happens when you delete the column now? When you delete the column, it's basically the opposite. Instead of moving to the right, it's now going to move back to the left. So to do that, it's the same process. You right click on the column letter and you're going to see the delete option. You delete and notice the information shifted to the left. I'm going to right click on C now, select delete, and that is now shifted to the left. So whenever you delete a column, it gets shifted to the left. It's moved to the left. Now, what about a row now? If we insert a row, how do we insert a row? Same process. If we want to insert a row before the number 4, we have to select that row. If we want to insert a row before 6, we have to select that one. So I'm going to insert a row before 3. So once again, you don't necessarily need to select it. It's more so of right clicking on that tree. So when you right click on that tree, once again you're going to see insert, but notice how the information moved. It got shifted downwards. So it inserted the row at row 3, but it shifted all the information downwards. So whenever you insert a row, I'm going to select 3 again, right click, insert, and notice the information got shifted downwards again. So that is how you insert a row, and whenever you insert a row, whatever information is at that point and below gets shifted down one row. Now that means when you delete, the opposite happens. If I delete row 4, I right clicked on it, select delete, the information is going to get shifted upwards. I'm going to delete 3, the information gets shifted upwards. Are we following me so far?
Yes, sir.
Anybody not following? So all that information that I'm mentioning, it's basically everything here, but instead of reading all that, I'm just showing you what is happening. So that is how you insert. Notice that is how you insert an entire column. Whenever you select at the top here, right click at the top here and insert. Whenever you right click at the side here and select insert, you are inserting an entire new row or column. Now, so that's how you insert a new row or a new column. But what if you just want to insert a cell, one single cell? How do we do that? Well, say for instance, we want to insert a cell right in the middle here in column C, at C4. We want to insert a cell at C4, a brand new cell. So we don't want to delete anything, we don't want to change anything, we just want to insert a cell. How do we do that? You select the cell that you want and you right click, and notice we have the insert option here. But now when we select this here, a box will appear. Now notice we have the two bottom options, which is basically what we already just looked at. You either insert a brand new entire row, that's going to create a whole new row. So let's select that to see what happens. Notice it created a whole new row. Right where I right clicked on. Same for the column. Insert an entire column is going to create a whole new column, just like what we did when we were right clicking on the letter and the number. But what we're going to look at now is what happens when we select the top two options. Now the top two options is when we just want to insert a single cell. So the first option, when we insert in the cell, is to where do we want to shift the data. So the first option is to shift the cells to the right. So just like how when we insert a column, it shifted all the information to the right, the first option is asking us to, or we are going to, shift the data to the right when we insert this cell here. So notice I selected the first one. Remember, I'm right clicking on 94, insert, using the first option, select OK, and notice it shifted all the information to the right. It inserted a blank cell and shifted all the information to the right. Now just like deleting a column, I could right click on this cell here, select delete, and notice we have the two options here once again, delete entire row, delete entire column. So that's going to delete the entire row and column. But the first option, just like if you delete a column, if you select this first option, is going to delete the cell and shift the information to the left. So like in this case here, we want the information to be shifted to the left. We want it to move over to the left. So we can select OK, and it shifted the information over to the left. Now let's try the other one. Insert, and we're going to shift the cell downward. So this is like inserting a row, but we're inserting one cell, and it's going to shift that information for that column downward. So notice it shifted that information there downwards. And now if we go and delete and use the second option, shift cells up, it's going to bring the information back up, just like if we were deleting a row. Okay, and it shifted the information back up. So whether you're inserting an entire column or you're inserting a cell, it can shift the information to the right. Deleting it is going to shift it to the left. Whenever you're inserting an entire row or you're inserting a cell, you can shift the information down. But when you're deleting, it shifts the information upward. Are we following?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Alright, great. Alright, Gayatri and Oceana, you guys clear on that?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Great. Alright, so that basically wraps up this chapter here. So this chapter, it was a very lengthy chapter, but it was lengthy because it had a lot of functions and formulas that, because remember, that's our main objective when it comes to using spreadsheet, using all these, how to create a formula. And remember, formulas use BODMAS, so you got to remember the rule of BODMAS, brackets, order of division, multiplication, addition, subtraction. Whenever you're creating your formula, it's just like if you're creating a maths formula, and it follows that same order. We looked at all the various functions that you need to recall. We looked at what is a syntax. Remember, a syntax is the structure of the function, the rule of the function, how it must be designed. We looked at average, all the various count, if, date, max, min, PMT, rank, sum, and the most difficult one, VLOOKUP. Then we looked at what is relative, what is absolute addressing, and how we can manipulate our table by inserting and deleting rows and columns. Any questions before we move on to the next chapter?
No, sir.
All right. Let me find the next chapter. All right. So the next chapter is a relatively simple chapter. Formatting a spreadsheet. So the chapters we basically covered has a particular order to it. Chapter 1, we were looking at terminologies, basically the various terms that you need to remember. What is a spreadsheet and so on. Then in chapter 2, 7.2, we were looking at some additional terms like what is an active cell, what are the various data types, what is formatting, what's copy and paste, what are formulas and functions. So we were learning the basics of spreadsheets. Then in chapter 7.3, we were basically learning how to create our formulas. So when we enter our data, we can do our calculations. So now that we know how to enter our data, how to do our calculations, now we need to know how we can format our data, how we can format our information. Now, when we say format, we basically mean to change the appearance. That's basically what formatting means. To change the appearance of our data, to make it look a bit different than how it normally does. And we have a wide variety of formatting. So we have formatting such as bold, we have various alignment, even simply changing the font size is in relation to formatting. So formatting is basically changing the appearance. So you can hear me using that term a lot. I'm going to basically be saying format your data. So when I say format your data, format your table, I'm basically meaning to apply the necessary or the appropriate format that is going to be appropriate for your data. So we're going to be looking at what are the various formatting that we have. So we have various number formats, we have various alignment, text format, character format, we have various borders, we can shade a cell. Those are some of the formatting that we have. We're going to look at the format cell dialog box. This here has a lot of options inside of it. We can format our table, format numbers, alignment, customize font, apply border, shading, and so on. We can format numbers, changing the number's appearance. We can change the number to currency. We know numbers have different formats. They can come in a currency format, they have percentage format. Numbers can appear as dates. They have different style. They might have a decimal place. They might have commas and so on. All of that we'll be looking at. And the various forms of alignment. We have horizontal alignment. We have vertical alignment. All of that is in relation to formatting. We have wrap text, shrink to fit, merge cell, and so on. All of those are formatting options. So let's look at all the formatting options. So on the home tab is where you're going to find a majority of your formatting option. Basically everything that you see in here is in relation to formatting. A majority of the options that you see in here is in relation to formatting. So let's start on the left hand side here. So on the left hand side here we have the font section. So this here is the formatting of our font. So the very first option is to change the font type. So we can select that arrow and type in any font that we want. Now, when it comes to selecting a font, we do not select a font simply because it looks nice. So not because this font here is cursive and it's a bit curly, looks a bit fancy, that we're going to go and select this font. No. We select font based on the document that we are creating. So most professional documents are going to use what we call professional fonts. So if we search for examples of professional fonts, we're going to see some examples here. So basically, professional fonts are going to be fonts that are easy to read. So for example, Times New Roman, Arial, Calibri, Helvetica, Cambria, Georgia, Garamond, Avenir Next. Those are examples of professional fonts. So when you are formatting or choosing a font, especially for a professional document, you choose one of those. Now you can either scroll and search, or you can type in the name. So I'm going to type in Times. Notice I have that selected there. Select Enter. And notice I have Times New Roman as my formatting here. I can type in Arial, and that there is now formatted as Arial. I can type in Garamond, and that there is now formatted as Garamond there. So whenever you are formatting basically anything for your SBA, and it's a document that you must read properly, is going to go in a professional font. Now, you have situations whereby, say for instance, you might be creating a birthday flyer, a birthday poster. So you might want this is where you might want some fancy looking fonts, some cursive and so on. So fonts for birthday cards. So let's see what examples they give us. So we have Public Sun, Equinox, Glimmer, Anders, Windsong, Fabfelt, and so on. Janda Happy Day. So if you notice, these are a bit more cursive, they're a bit more stylish. So because you're using it for something more creative. So it's not a professional document where the person has to be, where you have to act in a professional manner basically. So that's why we have a variety of fonts, and you need to note when to use particular fonts. So that's how you change a font. Now right beside that, you can set the size that you want. Now if you notice, it goes up to 72, but that doesn't mean that's the maximum. You can actually replace the number and type in a much larger number. Notice the largest is 409. So if I type in 200, notice it gets that large there, 409, and it gets extremely large there. You also have these two options here, which will take it up another level or take it down a level. Now this here is bold. Do you guys know the shortcut for bold?
No, sir.
Alright. Well, you need to take note of these shortcuts here. Bold is going to be CTRL plus B. So you hold the control key, and you press the letter B. So you highlight your information, hold the control key and press B, and that is going to enable bold. So that's a shortcut for bold. We have italic here. Anybody know what's the shortcut for italic? CTRL plus I. So you highlight your information once again, you hold control, you press I, and the information is now italic. Now if you can't remember, if you notice, you can hover your cursor over the option and it shows you the cursor there also. So it's useful and beneficial to memorize the shortcuts. Instead of selecting these options at the top here, you can easily press the shortcut key. Underline, that's going to be CTRL plus U. So notice there, CTRL plus U, so highlight, select underline, and notice all of my information there is underlined. Now if you notice, to the right of underline has a drop down, so if I want double arrow, I can select that. So now I have double arrow as my underline. Now to the right of that, you have your border option, and you would mostly have to select this arrow here because it's always going to show you the last border option you use. So you got to select the arrow, and here you're going to see all of your options. If you want to add a bottom border, top border, left, right, no border, all border, the all border is the one that you're going to use the most, because that's the one. So let me take off no border. So notice it's back to a normal spreadsheet. The all border is the one that you're going to use when you basically want your data to look like if it's in an actual table. So notice it added in all the lines that you need. Then we also have outside border. So say for instance you don't want any inside line, you just want a line around your data. Say for instance like here, you can do outside border. So notice I have like a box area here now. Or if you want to make it a bit more thick, notice you have thick outside border. So I made it a more thicker so that it stands out a bit more. Notice we have double underline, we have double line border, we have thick border, we have various options. You can even draw in your border. So if you select the draw option, I can simply draw the line that I want. So I can draw in my lines. So say for instance I only wanted that, or I just wanted a line there, I just wanted a line here, I just wanted a line like this here. Say for instance I wanted lines like that, I can draw in my border. So that there is an option. We have the erase option, erase border lines. So like if for instance I draw in an extra line, I draw in an extra border line, I can erase a line. Why is it eraser? Oh, that's draw border grid. Erase border, so I can erase the line. So notice I'm erasing these lines here one by one. So if I don't want that there, that upper line there, I can erase it like that. So that's the erase option. You can change your line color. So let me add back all border, and I can change my line color to yellow. So notice all my line color there is now yellow. So you have a variety of options. You can even select more border, and we're going to get into here. We're going to come back to this box here later. So to the right of that now you have your fill color. Your fill color is to fill the cell. So I'm going to highlight these cells here, select this paint bucket here, and that fills the cell with a particular color, any color you want. If you want no fill, no color, that's an option. Now if you select more color, notice you can select more colors here if that wasn't enough at the top there, but you can go custom and you could further modify the color. If for instance you're not seeing a particular color that you're familiar with or you wanted to see, like for instance if you want turquoise, you would go somewhere there and select that. So notice now I have turquoise. something looking like turquoise. Need a little more blue. Yeah, so you guys getting the idea. So you can also change your font color. That is the one on the right hand. That's the one with the A and the red underline. That's changing the font color to whatever font color that you want. You have more color also, whereby you can further modify the color. Good. You guys following so far?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Great. Now, so that's formatting your fonts. We're going to go over to the next section. We have alignment now. Now, when it comes to alignment, we have two types of alignment. We have horizontal alignment, and horizontal means going across, right? From left to right. So that's horizontal. So that's the normal alignment we use. And that is align left. So note it's not left align. It's not right align. The actual name is align right and align left. So we already know what this does. If you select left align or align left, it puts the information to the left of the cell. It puts the information to the right or in the center, horizontally, that is. So it does that horizontal to the left, right, and center. Now, what if the cell has height? What if you made the cell taller? Let me take off all these colors so that you can see better. Yeah. What if the cell has color now? What if the cell has, not color, what if the cell has height? So remember, this is the bottom one is the horizontal alignment. Notice it's going only across horizontally, the width. We now have vertical alignment. That's the one at the top here. A vertical alignment is in relation to the height of the cell. Horizontal is in relation to the width of the cell. So for the vertical alignment, we have bottom align, we have middle align, and we have top align. Those are our three vertical alignment. Top align, middle align, and bottom align. Those are the 6 alignment options that we have. 3 horizontal and 3 vertical. So if you notice, it's currently by default, it's always by default bottom align. So if I select middle align, notice it's in the middle of the cell now in terms of the height of the cell. If I select top align, it's going to go to the top of the cell. So now what we can do, we can combine the vertical and the horizontal alignment to get different parts of our cell. So like say for instance, I want a complete center, I have to select middle align and then the center horizontal alignment, and notice I'm completely in the center. So you choose a combination of the vertical and horizontal alignment, and you are going to get various parts of the cell. So that is the 6 alignments there. Are we clear?
Yes, sir.
Great. To the right of the vertical alignment, we have what is called orientation. So let me just type in a few more data. Addressing. So you have the word addressing there. So with orientation, we can spice up our information in a cell. Basically put it at various angles. So angle counterclockwise. So like if we have a table heading, let me put back the table. Yeah, so like how we have this table here. So all like these headings here, I can do angle counterclockwise. So I can add some effects to my heading. I can do angle clockwise. I can vertical text. I can rotate text upward. rotate text downward, a variety of options there. I can change the orientation of my text there. Once again, we're going to come back to this box later, but that's these options here. Then to the right of that one now, we have the option called wrap text. Now this here is important to remember what this does. As the name implies, it wraps text. But where does it wrap the text? It wraps the text inside of a cell. Now, let me go over to another sheet so you can see it clearly. I'm going to go into the cell, type in a very long word. Good. So if you notice, this very long word is now extended outside of the cell. Now, what will the wrap text option do when I select it? Look what happens. It wraps the information inside of the cell. So it kept the same column width. Now if I expand, look what's going to happen. It's going to keep the information inside of the cell. It's not going to go outside of the cell anymore. It's not going to spill over into the other cell like how it was in the beginning. So that's what wrap text does. So like, unlike how by default it spills over the other columns, the other cells, wrap text keeps the information inside of that cell that it is in. Whether you make it smaller or whether you make it larger, it's going to stay within that cell. That is wrap text. Are we clear?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Great.
Yes, sir.
Alright, great. So below that now, to the right of your horizontal alignment, we have indentation. So we have increase and decrease indentation. So I'm going to increase indent. And we should know what indenting means. It means to move away from the margin, to give you some space from the margin. That's what it means by indenting. Like how you just indent the first paragraph, it means you are keeping some space away from the margin. So notice it's keeping some space away from the cell. So that's by increasing it there. If I decrease, notice it's going to go back to its original state. So that's how you can indent inside of a cell if you need to do that. Now to the right of that, we have some merge options here. Now these merge options is when we want to group some cells together. So let me go to another sheet. So say for instance we want to group all of these cells here together into one cell. We can select right here, merge and center. Select that, and notice you're not seeing any lines anymore. Why? Because all of those cells have been combined into one and they're now treated as one cell. So now I can double click and go into this merge cell area and start typing. I notice my information is at the bottom there. Let me make it larger. So notice my information is inside of this one area here. So let me turn on wrap text. Notice my information is in this one area here. So you can apply your formatting, your alignment now, and position it how you want it, and all of that is possible. So that's how you can group multiple cells together, by merging it together. Now when it comes to the merge option, we have three options. We have three types of merge, and you need to remember what happens when you use the different merge. Now firstly, if you want to unmerge or if you want to ungroup the cells, you can select the unmerge option, and notice the cells are no longer merged together. So what happens when you use merge and center? Well, as the name implies, it merges the cells together, but it puts the alignment in the center. So notice by default it put the alignment in the center. So that's all it does. It groups the cells together, merges the cells together, and puts the alignment to center. Now, what about the other alignment? What about the other merge options? So I'm going to select this group of cells here, and I'm going to select the arrow and select merge across. So notice merge across only merged the rows. So it merged it in terms of rows. So notice each row that I just selected was merged as one row. Sorry, it's still a row, but it merged all of the cells into that row there, basically, into one large cell, but in terms of a row. So that's what that does. But the alignment, let me see if it changed, or did it? Let me go to another sheet. I'm going to highlight that and select merge across again, and go into a cell. Okay, so notice here it's left align. It's to the left of that cell there. Notice what I type in here is in the left, but in this sheet here, notice what I'm typing is in the center. The reason for that, what happens is that it keeps the alignment. Before, when I edited, I was it kept the alignment of center, so that's why when I merged across, it kept the alignment of center. So when you use merge across, it keeps the alignment of what the cell had before. So before it had center, so it kept center, but this one here had left align, so it kept that left align alignment. So once again, merge and center merges and centers the information. Merge across is used to group cells into a row, but it keeps the alignment. Now, what does a merge cell do? Same as merge and center, it merges the cells together, but it keeps the alignment instead of centering. Whatever the alignment was, so notice this one is left align. Notice I merge all of those cells together, and when I start typing, it's at the left of that cell. So merge and center merges the information and centers the alignment. Merge across merges the cells into a row and keeps whatever the alignment was. If it was center, it's going to remain as center. If it was right align, it's going to remain as right align. Merge cells merges all of the cells into one single cell and keeps the alignment, whether it was center, left, right, whatever it was. And unmerge is when you want to ungroup the cells, unmerge the cells. Are we clear on that?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Any questions? All right. So this here is important to note when it comes to merging. Say for instance, and this is what you got to be careful with when you're merging. When you're merging, it can delete your data. So say for instance, if I highlight my headings here and I select merge, I'm going to get an error message. Notice I got an error message. It says merge in cells only keeps the upper left value and discards the other value. So simply, whenever you are selecting cells together to be merged, it's going to delete all of the data except the data that is in the top left. If you highlight, once again, if you highlight a group of cells that has data inside of it, for example, if I highlight this small table here, bold, italic, underline, if I highlight this here and I select the merge option, what is going to happen is going to delete all the information except what is at the top left. So I'm going to select, that's why it's giving me an error message, because it's going to delete the information. So if I select OK, notice only bold remained because that was in the upper left cell. So if I highlight this entire table and I select merge, only A will remain. Notice that only A remained. So whenever you merge, and the cells have data inside of it, you have to be careful. If you don't want the data, then you complete the merge, but you have to be careful if it does have important data inside of it, that it will delete the data and keep the top left. Now, what if only one cell has information inside of it? While you are highlighting cells, only one cell has information inside of it. What's going to happen? That one information is going to remain. Doesn't matter which cell, whichever cell I type it in, I'm going to type it at the end there. So notice it's not in the top left, it's at the bottom here, over on the right. If I select merge, notice it kept that. I didn't even get an error message because it was only one piece of information. So it kept that one piece of information. So once again, if you highlight a group of cells with data and you select the merge option, it's going to delete everything except the top left data. If you highlight a group of cells and it has one piece of information inside of it, one cell has data inside of it, it's going to merge and keep that one data that was inside of it. Are we following?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Great. Alright, so that's it for the alignment section here. Let's move over to the number format section here. So the number format, let's start from the top. We have general and we have an arrow here. So we're going to mostly be clicking on this arrow here. So this section here is where we change the appearance of our number now to various formatting. So let me copy this to another table. Base value. Good. So I don't want any formatting. Good. So I'm going to highlight all of it and I'm going to go through each one. So select the arrow. So notice I have the first one is number. So general is default. Every time you enter data, it's going to be general by default. General data. So I want to format it as number. So notice what number does. It simply added 2 decimal places. That is all. So number adds 2 decimal places. I'm going to select currency. All currency does is add a $sign with 2 decimal places. So it formatted. Remember, formatting is changing the appearance. So formatting as currency adds a $sign and 2 decimal places. Let's try the other one. Accounting. Now notice the difference between currency and accounting, because they're basically doing the same thing. So one difference between accounting and currency is notice where the $sign is located. Let me expand the width and notice where the $sign is. Accounting keeps the $sign on the left hand side. So this is useful for persons that are doing accounts. Those persons, sometimes they need their $sign in one position, so you can do that here. That keeps the $sign in one position. Whereas currency puts the $sign right before the very last number. That's one difference between currency and accounting. The other difference is how it represents a 0. So in accounting, a 0 is represented with a dash. So notice I just typed in 0 and I pressed enter and a dash appeared. In currency, it represents a 0 with a 0. So that's the other difference. Accounting represents a 0 with a dash. Currency represents a 0 with a 0. So that's the only 2 difference there between accounting and currency. Now for any assignment, use the currency option because we want to see values. We want to see that 0 value instead of a dash. So anytime you have a spreadsheet assignment, use the currency if you have to format as currency, $ in decimal place, use the currency format. Are you guys clear so far?
Yes, sir.
Alright. Let's look at the other one. So currency accounting. Next we have short date. So notice it's a short form of a date. We just have the number format. Let's look at long date. So notice long date gives you the day, the month spelled out, the date once again, and the year. Time, so that format is that time there. Percentage, so say for instance you want to type in a percentage, you can do that, or you use this method when you already have the value typed in, because if you simply type in 88 and you put the percentage sign and you click back in that cell, notice it's formatted automatically with percentage. So you don't technically need to format as percentage. You simply type in the number with percentage and it formats automatically as percentage. But if for instance you already have the value typed in, you would need to use this method here. Now we have fraction. So if you need to convert a number to fraction or type in a fraction, you can do that. You have scientific notation, and you have text. So notice text puts the information on the left hand side. So those are the options under this menu here. So that's how we format our numbers. Let me put it back to number. And so at the bottom here now, notice we have increased decimal and decreased decimal. So if we want more decimal place, we're going to increase. If we want reduce the decimal place, we are going to use the decrease option. So increase and decrease. Now above that now, we have a shortcut for accounting. So the $ here is a shortcut for accounting. And right next to that is an arrow, whereby we can select which currency we want. We want English dollars, United Kingdom, Euro, Yen, and so on. So if you want whatever symbol, we have the shortcut for that there. Once again, we have to the right of that, we have the percentage style as a shortcut there for that. Now if you notice, whenever you type in a value and you use that percentage, you use this percentage option here, it adds 2 zeros. And obviously that's going to change your value, because you don't want 75, 100%. You want 75%. Now I'm not quite sure why the system does that, why it adds more zero to it. I'm assuming it's something to do with how it calculates it, but know that it does that by default. So the best thing to do is to basically type in whatever percentage you want, like I showed you here. Type in the number and that percentage symbol, because as I showed you here, if you go and type in a value and then select percentage, it's going to add more data to it. It's going to add 2 more zeros to it, and that's going to give you incorrect value based on what you wanted. So just know that. Now whenever you have a long number, so let me keep on that there, because that's going to give me a long number. Whenever you have a long number and you want to see separation in the place value, we have what is called the comma style. So if I select that, it took off the dot. Alright, I need some long numbers, so let me type in some 90 numbers. So notice what's happening there with my numbers. The place values, I'm seeing a separation there with the comma. So let me highlight it and take off comma. Can't take it off. So let me, so these here are numbers with no comma style, and if I highlight that and select it, notice comma style, put the commas at the place value every 1,000, and it adds 2 decimal place so that we can see the position of our numbers there basically. So that there is our number format there. Are we following so far?
Yes, sir.
Alright. We don't really have to use these options here so much. Format as table. Try not to use this so much when you're creating spreadsheets, because this can affect your name range. Even though it can add some presentation to your spreadsheet, like for example, if you do that, notice what it's asking you to do: create a table. And if you do this here, yes, it's going to add some style to your spreadsheet. But what actually happens is that if that table was named, it affects the name of that table. It affects the name of that range. So what you can do, we already learned how to modify, so you can just do it manually. Add in your colors, add in your border. Oh, I have it as another color that way. Yeah, add in your border. What? Yeah, add in your border, add in your color. Change your font. You can do that manually to your table, but that's only if you have a name range in that table, because it can affect that name range. Otherwise, you can apply this format style here, no problem. Notice we have a shortcut here for insert. We have a shortcut for delete. We have a shortcut here for format. So notice here we have row height. So with this option here, we can type in the height of the row if we want. So instead of manually changing it, we can type in the value 60, and notice it increased by 60. Now if you go back to the option, notice it says auto fit. And did I teach you guys about auto fit?
No, sir. I can't recall doing that.
Alright. So that thing, that means I didn't show you how to resize column and so on. So whenever you want to resize a column, well, you've basically seen me doing it so far. You would put your cursor between the line of wherever you want to resize. So if I want to resize column B, I put my cursor on the line between B and C, and I click on that and I drag, and that's going to increase the width or decrease the width. So I just put my cursor on any one of those lines and I click and I drag. Come on, I think I covered. I think I covered.
Yes, sir, you showed us how to do that before.
Yeah, I remember. You showed us, but I can't remember the name. That's the thing.
Yeah, I showed you guys this before. So when you double click here, it automatically fits the information. So what I'm showing you is that it has that option right here. So there's some persons who have an issue with double clicking. They find it very difficult to double click. So if there's any one of you, you can use the option right here, auto fit row height, and notice it automatically fitted that row height there. You have the column width, so you can type in the column width here also. So 60 once again, and notice it expanded that column width, and notice it has the auto fit also. So auto fit and automatically fits there. Default width, so you can set the default width if you want for the entire spreadsheet. If you want the default width to be 20, so let me see if I open another sheet. Alright, seems that really didn't do anything. That really didn't do anything. I wonder if you gotta change spreadsheet or something. But just know that option is there. We can hide a row. Say for instance, we can hide a row or a column. Say for instance, I do not want anybody to see the information in this column here. So I can right click on it and notice there's a hide option here. But as you saw on the format, we also have a hide option here. So I can hide column. So I selected this column here, hide. So notice I'm no longer seeing that column. But if you look carefully, you can see there's a double line here. You guys seeing that?
Yes, sir.
So that there is an indication that a column is actually hidden there. So what you got to do is simply click on that same line and drag it outwards. Because basically what hiding is basically reducing the width so small that you cannot see the column. That's all basically hiding is doing. Is reducing the width to 0. That's what hiding is doing. So in some cases when you double click, it's going to bring out the information also. It's going to auto fit. That's why auto fit works, because it automatically fits the column. So that's how you can hide a column. You can also do the same thing for a row. You carry it up there. So notice you see that double line there also. And the row height was reduced to 0. So it is now hidden. So if you double click the auto fit, notice it's bringing out the information there. We have a rename sheet option there. Notice we also have an unhide option here. We have rename sheet, we have move sheet. So say for instance we have a lot of information inside of this sheet here. We can right click on the sheet and use copy, and we can select one of the sheet here and select create a copy. By default, if you do not select create a copy, by default the option is going to be move. So say for instance you want to move sheet 1. At the top here you have to select where you want to move it to. So if I want to move it to a new book, okay. So notice a whole spreadsheet here was created, a whole new spreadsheet was created, and sheet 8 was moved from this spreadsheet here. Notice I don't have a sheet 8 anymore. Sheet 7, sheet 9. Sheet 8 was moved to a whole new spreadsheet. Now if I want to copy it back, if I want to copy back the sheet 8, I'm going to right click on it, move or copy. I'm going to select where I want to copy it to, this review Excel, and let me I gotta go back, book 1, sheet 8, create a copy to book review, okay. So notice it's back over here. So I just copied back that spreadsheet, the entire spreadsheet. So I don't need to highlight anything, cut, copy, and paste. I can move the sheet by itself. Either move the sheet or copy the sheet. You can actually copy the sheet right in here also. So say for instance, I want to make a copy of sheet 8. Right click again, move or copy. Look for sheet 8, create a copy. I leave this here as the spreadsheet name. Select OK. I notice I have sheet 8 too. So I have 2 spreadsheets here, 2 sheets with the same name, with the same data. So that's how you can move and copy. You can change tab color also. I actually never tried this one. So you can change the color of the sheet here. So notice I just change that color there. So notice I can change these colors here at the bottom. We can protect sheet. So notice here, password to unprotect sheet. So I can type in a password here if I want. So, and I can say what I'm allowing persons to do from not doing. I can check off what they cannot do. Allow users on the worksheet to do select lock cells, select unlock cells, delete rows and columns. If I want to protect my worksheet, I can use this option here. Lock cells. We have an auto sum option here. This is like a shortcut for sum for the functions. So look what's gonna happen. I select that cell there and I select sum. So notice it automatically created a sum function for those cells there. I'm going to select average. Notice it automatically created average because those functions are simple. All they do, they have one syntax. They have one rule. It's the function name and the range inside of it. So that's why there is a shortcut for it, because they're relatively simple to create. And we have the more functions here. So PMT, and we can automatically select the cells here. So we have a variety of options there. Move down. Let me see what this one does. Move down. Oh, so this is a copy option. Fill. Oh, this is the autofill option. If you want to autofill down, autofill to the right, autofill up, down, left. If you want to do a flash fill. Now this option here is useful. I like using this one here, this clear all option, because sometimes, like you saw earlier, if I delete all this information here, notice the formatting still remains. So like if I want to clear off the format, notice there's a clear format option also, but I like using clear all because that's going to delete everything, all the formatting, all the data, and it's going to reset everything to default. So that's if you want to clear off everything in the cells, you can use that option there. Clear all, clear format, clear content, clear hyperlink. They clear those specifically. Are you guys following everything so far?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Alright, so the format cells box, we're going to look at that in the next class. We're going to wrap up here for today. So basically what we looked at today, we looked at what is relative and absolute addressing. We looked at how to insert and delete rows and columns. And we looked at basically all the formatting options on this home tab here. Any questions before we close off?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Alright, well that's it for tonight. Enjoy the rest of your night.
Thank you, sir. Same to you.
Alright.
Class was nice.
Thank you.